when we talk about scaling, I want to start with you. Where does your mind go in terms of what's really important for somebody to focus on with that?
I think having repeatable processes in place, right? I mean, I think anybody can do one thing one time, and that's for all parts of the business, So I think having something that's repeatable and then ultimately repeatable for other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it starts with like figuring out how to make it super repeatable. I say the term a lot. Um, Man, I'm blanking on it as I say that. Watch, like doing rinse and repeat.
There it is.
Rinse and repeat. I was like, I kept thinking laundry in my head, and I'm like, it's not laundry, Glenn.
You just have to
but
think. You just have to remember laundry.
I'm like, yeah, that's what my internal monologue was. Laundry, Glenn. Say laundry. I'm like, it's not laundry.
Shout laundry as loud as you can.
Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat is what I was trying to say. Something that you start by doing that for yourself, and then ultimately you can hand that off to other people. They can do it. And Josh, I think, is one of the kings at really that. So, and here's the other thing I wanted to mention too is, the average agent, we've said this a million times on the show, is the average agent only writes 4 or 5 apps a year, right? So if you're doing more than that, you're doing more than what the average agent is producing. So Josh, when it comes to scaling, and obviously you've scaled your business a ton, what's something that comes to mind first and foremost?
Well, I thank you for the kind words, but
Yeah.
what I've done is I've scaled to the most of what one individual can do. And now I'm in the transition of scaling my agency. And so I don't know, I'm more, I believe I'm only allowed and qualified to teach what I've already done. And so my focus would more be on taking what you can do with a one-man show, which is, we're talking about the average agent. The average agent is a one-man band or one-woman band.
Correct.
And that's
Correct.
how can I scale that out to the maximum capability?
Right.
Well, number one, I would agree, you have to have, whether you document it or not. I was bad at documenting it, so I would say one pro tip in going into it is document everything early, create spreadsheets, create Word documents against your will if that's not your strength in the beginning, because again, you're the one person show, and so you've got to do stuff that you're not good at, and that's how you get better at it. But yeah, I think in retrospect, looking back, I could have grown farther, faster. I mean, I grew pretty far and fast as it was, but I could have gone farther and faster had I introduced delegation and automation sooner. I was brought into the industry by a really old school, one of the old heads from the earlier days, maybe 2 generations ago in the business, if you will. And so,
really old.
Do a direct mail drop, walk and talk.
Yep.
The old school pound the pavement. And so that's really what I did in the beginning. Had I had the resources that I have now, that I'm giving agents now, when I started in the field, I would have been an exponentially different path, even faster growth than I had. But yeah, I think scaling is a lot about first formulating your system and process. Because to me, I think the big mistake I made was I created a non-duplicatable system. So I scaled out a system that I then couldn't replicate with other people unless I found a unicorn. And so instead of having a system that everybody else could adapt to, or I guess rephrase that. Instead of having a system that adapts to the people, I had a system that I had to find people that adapted to my system. And so my big challenge for me and what turned the corner was finding people that are smarter than me in areas that I'm not as good at. So that would be in the data side. So now I have on staff someone who's a Go High level expert and a Facebook marketing expert, which has changed everything. Now we're building out our own CRM and building out your own CRM and doing things like taking in-house, even the marketing as well. learning how to do Facebook marketing, learning how to do Google marketing, learning how to do TikTok marketing, anything other than the old school grassroots, or what I hate.
Right.
Grassroots to me, I don't know if y'all ever seen, but roots for grass go like 2 inches, like rolls and stalks going down the highway. Those aren't very deep. What I want are deep roots. I want fruit trees. And the thing about fruit trees you have to understand is building an orchard of fruit trees that bear fruit is wonderful, but you got to wait. Like you can't advance the first part of the process, which is waiting from seedling to producing fruit tree.
Yep.
And so sometimes, just like weeds, sometimes weeds go through the cycle of growth and flowering and producing fruit quicker. And so you might get lucky and find a referral location or partner that produces quicker in your career. And if you do lean into that, there's nothing wrong with niching out. In the beginning of my path to scaling, niching was really important. So I think finding a niche, finding a system and process. But then to me, the most important thing that I think most agents don't do is the one advantage I believe I had over everybody else was very early. I had a brand, I had 3 core values. And so I had a theme. I had a guiding North Star that kind of guided everything that I did, which made creating a process easier. And if you have if you talk about like a Motel 6, Econo Lodge and all that, it's the same bed and chair and shower setup that the Ritz-Carlton has, but the experience is different. And the cool part about our industry, there's no price point difference. And so if every hotel was the same price point, where are y'all staying?
The one that gives you the best experience.
So how do I create the Ritz-Carlton procedure and process into my system up early? How do I create a brand? Because people trust a brand. Like there's a reason they have to have Small Business Saturday. Like they have to encourage us to shop small business because it sucks. They don't. The first thing you walk into small business shopping is the first sign is no refunds, no returns, no exceptions, and we're closed on Thursday for Carolina's birthday party, and the shopping small experience sucks.
That's so true. That's so true.
And so, think about it. If you went to go shopping for a TV, and the store you looked up online, you pulled up, and it's somebody's house, so. Like for all those agents, no disrespect to anybody working out of their house, because I started working out of my house. But part of scaling for me, especially, was hiring an assistant. And believe it or not, my wife was not going to allow me to have an assistant sitting in the living room working with us.
That's always wild to me when I hear those.
I think one thing that's interesting about this conversation that my mind goes to is Josh, you see these agents, Glenn and I see them all the time, where they don't want to grow beyond being a single person, right? And I guess to each their own, but there's a lot of people that wonder why they're not growing, and they don't want to hire any help. Like Glenn has got into some passionate arguments with people about hiring people and the value of it. But in addition to that, right, they never move out of their garage or their basement or wherever their office is, right? And I think a good conversation kind of relating to scaling is, a bit to me, and I think you just hit it right on the head there a second ago. It's scary, right? I think a big reason why some businesses scale and some go far and they duplicate themselves and they grow vertically is because they're willing to put themselves into the lines of feeling that uncertainty, to feeling that fear, I guess, if you will. I remember the first time I hired my first employee. At the time, it was equivalent to what my mortgage was, what the monthly cost of it was. And I remember it being really scary. And I remember telling myself, I'm oh, this is taking on another mortgage. And that really freaked me out, just thinking about it in that way. And I think there are a lot of agents out there that they will never bring themselves to go over the hump and go over that feeling, that feeling of fear, I guess.
Yeah. It is fear. I think you hit it on the nose right there, Josh. I think a lot of people are scared, but there's also silly things because again, Christian and I have worked with thousands of people over the past decade collectively. And there's going to be people that you have to fire. There's going to be people that didn't work out. There's going to be relationships that get burned when you're working with this many people over the course of time. So I think the rose-colored glasses that some people bring to it, where they think, I'll hire one person, they'll be a perfect fit, I'll keep them forever, right? That's where, and then it doesn't work out, and they're like, well, I'm never hiring anyone ever again. I'm only gonna make my niece or my nephew or my wife.
Yeah,
my wife. It's always the wife. It's always the wife. She's gonna get licensed. She's gonna be my assistant. Which for some of you that works, and hats off to you. Let me tell you.
It's
Hats
not
off to
scalable,
you.
though. It's not. If we're talking about scaling, though, that's not scalable. That there's a ceiling to that, and the whole point of scaling, like you don't want, it's like you don't want to take the elevator into the roof, like you want it to stop before the roof. So when if you're gonna scale, you want to have like the true open ceiling, no ceiling opportunity that this truly is. And but in order to take advantage of it, you've got to let go of your ego. I've had to let go of a lot of my ego, that only I can do this as good as I can do it, which that might be true.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of stuff that I do better than anybody I could hire could do. But the reality is the customer, as long as you have a good procedure and process in your training, the customer doesn't notice a big difference as long as you hire good people. And so, hiring sucks. Firing sucks even more. I suck at it. I'm the worst, admittedly, at, you're supposed to fire quick and hire slow, and I think I hire quick and fire slow. I'm not sure, but
do the opposite.
Yeah, I've had situations where letting go of somebody was the best thing I could do, as much as it hurt and as much as it might have damaged that relationship. Business is business, and I think your ability as a business person to separate home and business, and that's part of the reason why you want to get a dang office. And so maybe you're not ready to hire a person yet. Maybe your first step is just get an executive suite at the Regis near you, or whatever it is, where you're toe in the water, but now you have an official place where you go to where it's business time. Like for me, even having an office in my house, I could put up signs, I could lock the door, I could do whatever I want, but my kids and my wife and my dogs don't give a darn whether or not I'm on the clock or not.
They're always there.
You can curse on the show, Josh. It's okay.
Yeah.
We give you permission.
No, I had to lock my office door because I know people in my office. If I didn't lock it, inevitably an LOA or my assistant, somebody's going to come in here and ask me a question. And so that's part of it, is understanding that we're all human, and I don't care how good you are at multitasking. I don't care how committed you are. I don't care what kind of cool Zen space you've created in your house that you call your office. There's a psychological difference, and I will stand on this hill and die on this hill, between working from home and working from your office. And people don't want to work for you if you work from home. Now you're opening up an environment where you're talking about remote work, which God respect the VAs and all that stuff that you guys do. I think there's a really good place for VAs, but if you're building a face-to-face and you're trying to open an office and you're trying to own your own territory, it's impossible. Now, if you're building a over-the-phone empire and you're working inbound calls and you're working Facebook and all that, then you don't necessarily, you can kind of have a remote network of staff, and there's not necessarily a big need for the brick and mortar. But even if you don't have the brick and mortar, I would highly recommend having a separate space as part of scaling, because it starts to help you make what I would call the business-like decisions. The difference between the cash flow, because in the beginning when I was running my own business, I looked like the business like a piggy bank. Like, how much money can I pull out each month to give myself the maximum amount of cash in my pocket? So basically robbing the business in the beginning, to now where it's a calculated investment. I don't look at things as a cost. I look at the thing as what I'm investing into this lead campaign. I'm investing into this infrastructure. I'm investing into hiring LOAs, whatever the investment is. On some level, I got to have a return in mind, but we also got to understand that, like planting a seed in a tree, we got to give it time to grow. So, scaling on a big scale requires more than you.